Welcome to the second in our leadership series with Mick. I'm really looking forward to today. And this is the Lead for Freedom value-based blueprint. Now, everybody here who's done a kickoff with me knows that I always jump in and ask about your values, whether you call them key decision-making drivers. And I always speak to them as being a shortcut to systems, but they're even more to that. And today we have someone who absolutely lives and breathes this stuff and it's really aligned with creating those effortless relationships in your team, whether it be your VAs, guys on site, and how values can really bring that up. So Mick, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, so Mick Scotney had a Sparky tradie business, Sparky and Refridge, and we had builders and plumbers and everything by the end. But Sparky business started off with just me and my business partner, and we grew that up to over 15 years to about 80 odd people. And in that process, implemented a whole bunch of stuff, went to university, did coaching, did leadership. And what I realized was being able to build leaders was the thing that took away all of the chaos and gave me freedom. Was developing the leaders and having the pipeline, because all of my headaches came around people performance. There's things like finances we needed to understand, but once you've built the skill, the people thing just continues to come up, right? I fell in love with developing the people along the way because I built this incredible team where I could go away for weeks at a time, months at a time, and just the whole business ran itself. I could work for a couple of hours a month just doing some high-end finance stuff that the other partner didn't have any capacity to do. And that's only possible because of the people that I developed and put them in the right positions and empowered them. So yeah, and I realized that it was the leadership piece that was the key in all of that. And as a part of doing that, I realized I'd actually fallen out of love of being a Sparky and doing Sparky work and quoting jobs and stuff. So I exited that business with the business. I got exited out, left my business partners with it, and I moved on to do this full time. So that was 4 years ago. So I now work with service businesses, tradies, builders, construction guys, steel fabricators, all of those sort of service style businesses, and help them develop their people so that they can build a leadership engine inside their company to drive their performance instead of them having to do the whole lot. So that's what I do now, and that's a bit of an intro.
And I know that we talk about this a lot, about this, the valley of death, or you could call it ceiling, I guess, but valley of death seems more reasonable. It's different for trades versus construction, but let's talk at the $2 or $3 million mark, different for different industries. But where they go up, they're working by themselves. They might have a couple of guys. They're definitely still on the tools, and you were there too. And then they get this point where they're working more. They're not really getting any more time back, not necessarily earning more money. And they either make the decision, if they stay there, that just hurts. And they can stay there, they can lose marriages, all kinds of stuff goes wrong. Or they can go back, which is great, no worries. There's plenty of good money to be made being in that earlier stages, or they decide to move forward and there's that break into that next level. Yeah. What was the moment in your business that you did that?
It was back in 2011. We were doing about, would have been close to 3.5, maybe nearly 4 million. Would have been on track to do 4 million that year. I was actually sitting at home. It was a Saturday morning. I was hungover, Friday beers, big week, stressful, shit going on everywhere. Someone didn't show up for work, and I'm here laying with my 8-month-old daughter on the couch while my wife let her sleep in, and there's people not showing up to work, and I'm like, what the hell, man? And what I realized is we all have our leadership limit. And I realized in that moment that I'd reached the limit. Most people can only effectively lead between 4 and 10 people, especially in the service industry. So if you all got a team of more than 4 or 10 and they all directly report to you, you've reached most people's limit. You get the occasional person that's got incredible capacity and they might be able to do 12 or whatever, but as a general rule, we had a stack at that time. And I'd been doing it poorly for about 3 months. And like I say, effectively, we had about 15 at that time. And I realized that when something had to change. So that's where I went and did some research and worked out, I need to delegate some work here and change my leadership and do some things differently. And that's the moment that I realized the change. It's also the moment I decided I needed to go to university and educate myself on business, because I thought that's what all the best business people did. I was wrong. I learned more through coaching and development programs than I ever did through my university degree. Don't regret doing it. Probably wasn't the help I needed at the time. So then I learned all these things and started to put some stuff in place, and then it all shifted. And we quickly went from 4 to 8 in 12 months, or 7.8 actually. And that's only because we'd delegated, put some people in, and then it freed me up to do the things that I actually should be doing, like chasing work, quoting bigger jobs, building up relationships with contracts, tendering, all those kinds of things, because I was really good at that space. But when I'm trying to do all the things, I couldn't actually do my job properly because I'd reached my limit. So what I found is I could have stayed there and it would have been stressful. And like James said, it cost marriages. My home life, my wife will tell you, was a pretty shit time. We had a newborn. I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. And when I'm not, I'm on the phone. It was pretty crappy. And at that moment that I changed, and that's what helped me see in a minute I invested in my people and started to move into that leadership space, it all changed. We literally, our business doubled in 12 months. It was incredible.
So talk me through, in plain English, that mindset flip that, the founders here, the builders, struggle with the most. When does that start to go from management to delegation of leadership and the values today? And what is that?
So for me, it's about understanding that your role is actually to lead the team who do the work and not do the work. It's the shift in how you see yourself. You are no longer responsible for doing the work. You are not a builder anymore. You lead a team of builders. And it's literally, if I ask you, what do you do? And you say, I'm a builder, you haven't made the shift yet. You are not a builder. You run a building company. That's the difference in the way we see ourselves, because when we see that differently, all of a sudden we react differently. We delegate jobs because we're not a builder anymore. We run a building business. And that's a hard shift to make. We're really good at our job. That's generally what we started it. Do great work and people want to be around that. But I'm no longer a builder, and you've got to give up that part of yourself to, and it's an important distinction, because when we do, everything changes. The way we look at things change, the way we hand our work changes. And you might be technically the best person in your business, like as in you've got the highest skill set, quality control, and that's amazing. Your job is to teach that and set a standard, not do the work at that standard. It's about shifting that transition to what your priorities are, as opposed to, because if you're still a builder, you're going to jump in and do the building. And if you're still, as opposed, if you're a business owner, you're going to jump in and teach the team and show them how to build the way you do. This is where values come in. This is the piece, like values-based leadership is the piece that shapes behavior, because our values is what shapes the behavior. And if we articulate with our team, these are our values, and this is how our values play out in daily operation. We value quality. What does that mean? Things are always straight and neat and at right angles. That's what that means in actual work. That means we clean up our job site every day when we leave. We don't leave a mess in our job. That's how we do things at this business, because we value quality. We value service. So when our customer says, could you shift this? We do that. We do the extra things like, could you just move that over while you're here? Or we go the extra mile for our team. Values, the thing, the missing piece that I see with companies is they write a set of values. Oh, I value quality and communication and integrity. And what does that mean on actual daily life for a person in your business? Show me how I behave a way that's in alignment with integrity. That's the bit that when you do that with your team, all of a sudden they understand how to win in your business. They understand how the values, what they actually mean for them. And that's a really important distinction to make.
Yeah, it's interesting, that word values, right? When I talk about it with the guys, and whenever I ask, oh, you got values, what does that look like? How would someone make a decision that would be in line with that value and not otherwise?
The other thing with values is they then become a behavior correction coaching tool, because we run by our values because they're our values and we've installed them in the company and it's second nature to us. Some of the values may not be second nature to your team, but we assume everyone should operate the way we do. So we then use our values as a bit of a coaching tool, and we can say, hey, we really value open communication, and the way you're communicating with those two other tradies on site, that's not open communication. We need to have a clear plan. We need to do this, and this is how we do things on our site in terms of communication. I've now just changed his behavior and used the values. It's not, I don't know what you're doing there. You need to communicate better. It's not getting up him. It's like showing him the value and how his behavior can align with that value, because that's how we do things in our business. So it becomes a behavior shaping tool that we can use as a leader, and it's not personal anymore.
But if you can create the value that does that for you. And by the way, look, I know that we've got Mick here. We're working, this is together. This you can engage today. So if you've got a question, about I've got this value, how would that look like? The idea of the webinar today is how to translate your values, the things that matter to you, into getting shit done and stepping up into the leader. And that also goes down with your talent as well, with your VA. It's as much as important for your VA to know when they are answering an email, what is it about the way that you answered that email? What is the value that was the driver between why you did that and something else? Just as important as getting a squared off frame or cleaning up after the job site. Now it's your communication.
It shapes everything, right? And it comes down to our values. How are we using them in our daily operation, and how is that behavior reflected in a value? I love what James has just said, and it's about how do we grab that and make it translate into things that shape the way we do business. Your values are not just a word, it's actually the thing or the guiding principle that drives all of your behavior. We have more than one value, and we have a value hierarchy. So our values are in order. That's what helps you make decisions. If we value quality over speed, then we're going to slow down and get it right. We're going to take our time with an email. If we value speed over quality, we're going to do what we can to hurry up. When there's do I choose this or this? That's where we can use our values as a decision-making tool, because we have them in order and we have a hierarchy and our team knows what's most important. And there's a magic number between 5 and 7. Don't ask me why. It's a magic number. When you have 10, it's too long. If you have 3, it's not enough. 5 and 7, you look at everywhere. Most people have between 5 and 7. So Kyle's question, how do you go about making your values so they feel actual, natural?
My problem is I can write all these things, but it feels like cringy. Like I want it to feel like natural. It's hard to explain. Yeah.
So our values aren't some corporate wanker poster thing. It's whatever we want. My values are we leave things better than we found them. We have fun. We communicate with open honesty and with integrity. What else are there? I've got 7. We always leave things better than we found them. We lead ourselves first so we can help other people. Like it's written how I want.
And the thing is, as well,
it has to be what feels good for you.
And it's not just what feels good. As you're doing things, all you need to do is ask yourself why. The great thing about values, they're already living them. And it's like when I tell you guys to record the work you do and you're about to make a call, you're about to write an email. Why are you making that call? Why are you doing that? That's your value. It comes out of your mouth.
You used to do a lot of business with big mining companies. So we wrote these big wankery corporate values the first time I went to uni and learned, you've got to have values. So we made these massive big value statements and no one cared. It was useless. And then we created our always statements. Quality always, people first always, I can't remember the others. We had 4 always statements. I broke the rules and had 4. We actually had 7, but the last 3 didn't line up with the word always, so we dropped them off the list. But if people did those 4 things always, our business would be exceptional. It can be whatever, right? Some people call it the rules of the game, and this is how we do things. That's the thing. Like people get so attached to the structure they see someone do rather than what's actually written there. And the real value is sitting down with your team and talking about what those values actually mean in terms of how we do business and how we go about our daily life.
That's really key here, right? These cringe examples of the values on the wall. If you can come up with these, you've got some clear decision-making drivers and you know what they look like for you in everyday life. Talk to me about that framework around how we can take that now and use it to start stepping up.
When we think about our values and we've got the decision-making drivers, the first step is to get alignment with your team. Because if they're not on board with it and they don't understand exactly what they mean, then it's really hard. You're going to be driving it. It's going to feel like you're doing all the heavy lifting. So we get our team together, we write up our values and we talk about what they mean. And we write out as a team what it would look like if we were demonstrating whatever your value is. So we learn more, we lead ourselves first so that we can help other people. What does that actually mean in terms of like how we do business, and how would you know if someone's demonstrating that value? Oh, they would read books, they would set themselves a plan, they would be a goal setter, or they'd probably ask lots of questions. This is all the stuff that came out, right? So now I have the blueprint on how my team sees my values. And I can influence that and say, I don't actually think that is. I think this is what it more looks like. And when I said that, this is what I mean. And they're like, oh, wow. Now we have a blueprint on how they can live those values in terms of the behaviors, if they modeled it, would replicate that with the team. So that's that piece. We now then get to reinforce those values and behaviors, because what is reinforced will be repeated. We should use our values in our hiring, our firing, and in our development. Our behavior, our culture is just all of our behavior of our team combined together. What's our identity and our personality as a business, which is our behavior, and how do we display ourselves and all that kind of stuff. So then we can reinforce the bits we want to develop and grow and promote. And it's about being strategic. And when we're caught up in the busyness and in the weeds, and we've got 8 people and we're trying to lead everything and do all the stuff, we don't have time for that. There's no way I could have grown past where I was at if I didn't delegate all of the operational stuff to people, help set them up to win, and then focus on this other stuff. That's what got us to 8 to 10 to 12 to 15. It's because I spent my time doing the things that mattered instead of the things that aren't going to move the needle.
And you're not just delegating tasks. You're actually delegating accountability, leadership, and responsibility here.
If there's one key lesson I learned when I was growing the business, is when we delegate responsibility for someone and they don't do it right, we often judge them by, we're at page 50 and they're still at page 20. They're still learning, right? And we judge them by page 50's knowledge and go, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that, and get up them or get cranky at them or chip them or whatever kind of language you want to use. But they're still learning. So we've got to go back and go, how would I, page 20, what would I have liked to have known? Now I get it. I actually needed to tell them with this and this instead of assuming they're as good as I am. Because we make the assumption, oh, they can't do it like me. No, because they don't have the experience like you do.
No.
They can probably do it as good as you did when you started, because that's where they are. So it's about understanding where your team's at and giving them what they need at that level and using the values as the guide to keep them inside the bumper rails.
If you got someone, they've got to reply to an email, they've got to talk to a client, you can ask your talent based on our values, what do you think you would say here, right? Now, guarantee you they're looking in the right direction. The same North Star as you're looking at. When they say, I would say this, based on the values, the gap is going to be a lot smaller than if you just said, write the email, they write it, and you go, that's wrong. And you shut them down. If they're not facing that North Star, of course they're not going to be walking in the direction.
That's a great point. Based on our values, how would you respond to this situation? What that does is it references them back to their values and they go, oh, that's how I need to behave. I'll probably do this. Great idea. Or have you thought about this? Oh, no, I haven't. Okay, then we can move on. That's the power of values and having them clear. When you've got 1, 2, 3 people, your team will learn your values by being around you. That's how people learn, through osmosis. That's a slow way to learn, but that's how they learn, right? You have values and it's demonstrated in how you behave. That's why when you're a crew of 1 or 2, people just got along with you, because if they didn't, they left. You fitted in well, and now you've got 6 or 8. You don't have daily interaction with every single person, so they don't learn the values the same way. So you have to have a clear set of values that you communicate and talk about and make it deliberate rather than hoping they learn it accidentally by being around you. If you want to grow, you've got to have clear values and you've got to be able to use them as a leadership tool to leverage that to move forward.
So let's talk about that. You've defined them. You've aligned with the team. They sing off the same hymn sheet as to what they mean. If we don't start sitting it in our diary and having these consistent things, we're just not going to make it happen. Where can we insert this into our daily and weekly and monthly rhythms, or to really get it embedded?
The most effective ways to have them embedded in your daily operation is do it at your pre-start. Don't recite your values at your pre-start. That's useless. How are we going to demonstrate this value this week? Pick a value. So I pick 1 a week. At our weekly Monday morning, we have a 20-minute morning meeting with my team. And this is what we used to do in my other business. And this was the one that had the most impact. We'd pick a value for the week, and then how are we going to live this week? And the next meeting, we go, give me some examples of how we demonstrated our value last week. And people will be like, oh, we did this. Or, hey, it's customer first or people first. Hey, old mate rang up real upset, and I watched Caleb in the office just talk calmly to this guy, helped him out, and end up giving us 3 extra quotes, and we won 20 grand's worth of work out of it because she really cared about him. Mate, that is incredible. Well done. Pick one or two examples. You don't spend hours on it, but doing that every single week. And even in the morning pre-start, hey, don't forget our intention for the week is this value. How are we going to live that today? And set them off. But what it does is puts it in their mind, and it reinforces when you do your weekly meeting, like what it looks like and what the success of it is. Hey, we saw this happening. This is us demonstrating the value. It's a really powerful reinforcement tool. One of the most effective.
You can bring in anybody. I know on our family huddles, we'll just call on Quiet One or whoever's next, and anybody at any level, your apprentice, your guy's been there for 20 years, their input when it comes to values is just as relevant. And that's what I love about values as opposed to tech stuff is your apprentice can have an amazing idea of how to show a value that you would never have thought about.
And it equalizes because there's no rank in terms of values. It's just a behavior and how do we live that. So everyone gets the opportunity to be equal in the input. And it has a massive impact. It's the whole shape of culture. So I think that's such a powerful thing, and making it a daily habit. It's about putting it in the little things you already do. It's not about creating a new thing. No one would do it. We've got no time for extra stuff. But if I was to say, could you add 2 minutes to your weekly meeting and 30 seconds to your pre-start? Everyone can do that.
So we've got weekly pre-start. That's like a nice, easy rhythm to just get it so that it's on top of people's minds of what they are. And, you know, what you said before, that using it to align people back in. It's not even performance manage. It's just a readjustment, a realignment throughout when there's that behavior, or what do you call it? Behavior adjustment.
We want to shape the behavior of the people in our team. We use our values to do that.
I do want to open it up to the people who are here as well. It took me years to break through that idea of the values sat there with me and I could communicate them to it being in every moment. And it was tough for me. And so I want to respect that of people who are here and who may be struggling to step up or delegate authority to ask more questions. But is there any other aspects of this blueprint or lessons you've learned?
Probably the biggest lesson is that we want our team to step up, right? I wanted my team to step up and take more responsibility, but it wasn't until I had the realization that I wasn't letting them. I wasn't making the space for them to step up because I was in everything, doing everything. There was no room for them to shine. I had to step up a step and give them the space to step up. And when I did that, all of a sudden, every single time I've done that in my career, 99% of the time, they have surprised me and stepped up. They've just stepped up to the plate because there's room for them. They often feel like they can't step up because you're there. So you have to give them the space to step up, which could mean giving them a position, telling them this is now your responsibility. I want you to step up, or asking them if they want the opportunity to stand up, and then giving them the space to go and execute the work without micromanaging. Every time I did that, they stepped up and executed. And nearly every time when my team wasn't stepping up, it was because the leader wasn't making room for them to step up. They were getting involved and micromanaging the detail. So one of the most important things, if we want to grow our business and our team beyond where you are right now, we have to step up first and make room for our team to step up and shine.
And so let's look at the founders here who only have just themselves, maybe an apprentice and a VA, but they want to start this process now. So they've got someone, they're starting to lead, right? How do they start applying this same blueprint just between those first couple of early relationships in the zone to prevent themselves going through the valley of death? Because this is the perfect opportunity. You don't even need to go through it. Get it done now.
What a great question. One of my clients, so I mostly work with the bigger businesses, but I've got a guy who's a mate and asks for my help. And I'm like, sure, I can help you. He's actually one of your clients, James. We sat down and we talked about values, and we did exactly the same process, but with smaller amount of people. There was 2 people there, and we just had a conversation about values, what it means and how that shapes. I did the exact same process with him. And now he uses those questions when he hires people. He says, how can I find out if they value helping their mate up? Because one of their values is we set each other up to win, which is little things like picking up your mess when you go off, or helping the other tradesman finish off what he's doing before you leave, or having conversations with the end user to see if they need anything else before you go. Now he says, how can I ask questions that are going to help me find out if this person values that. So he's integrated it into his hiring process so everyone who comes on board already knows the values, is already integrating on that. So he's not trying to play catch up. He's proactive with it. And that's what the power of it is. If you're in that range where you've got 2 or 3 people, you are in the golden opportunity to start recruiting based on your values so that you can then avoid having to play catch up as the business grows, like I did.
And
Such
of
a
course, you're not,
piece. We've got a question here from Cole.
yeah. So what do you do when you get kicked back on your values because it seems like more work, and how to present them in a positive way?
Yeah. So they should never seem like more work because you're not asking them to do anything different. The only extra thing they'll have to do is have a team session with you to have a conversation about it. And depending on your crowd, with Mark, I was saying we went to the pub, put on a couple of beers, and we sat down and had a chat about it. I've had clients where we do a big workshop and they do pizzas afterwards. And there's a whole bunch of ways, right? It's not a thing. If you reward them with some pizza and beer and say, hey, we're going to have a get together and have a chat about values and the future of the business and where it's headed and why it's important. The thing is, when people get kicked back, it's because there's no context. They don't understand why it should matter to them. So the power is understanding, like, if we all have a set of behaviors that we agree are we going to be the principles of what this business is built on, why should they care? What happens is, you know how you get that bloke that joins a team and he doesn't fit and carries on and everyone gets upset with him? Yeah, it won't happen anymore because we'll have a set of values that'll align with that. Make it a positive experience by creating a bit of atmosphere and a bit of vibe around it. Give it a reason to matter to them. Show them why they should care about business values. Like, how will it help them in their daily operation? Talk to them how they can use it with an apprentice to help shape the apprentice's behavior. Help them understand where they can use it. And that's where the magic is for them. It's such a powerful tool.
There's something very interesting about what's in it for them as well. There's this word safety. And I don't mean safety, injuring yourself on the job site. I'm talking about emotional safety as well. So the thing about values is, and I know this with my team, is that they know if they look up on the wall, if they look at those values and they're going to make a call and it aligns with that, they're not doing the wrong thing. And no one likes to be getting in trouble. So what's in it for them straight up is those conversations simpler, and they've just got more autonomy. They're in more control of their world, and they're less likely to be able to fuck up and not know it. And that's because they can look at that, and it just makes it an easier and less resistant or friction experience because they've got this safe bubble with which to make decisions. Because you always ask people to step up, mate, make a call, use some common sense. The worst 2 words, I'm sure, Mick, you're not a big fan either, right? Is the only common sense is when you decide to make it in your business, and that's your values. That becomes then common sense. Is what you choose it to be and what you choose amongst you. And that's the best example of what real common sense is. If you say instead of saying common sense, use our values, make a call. Doesn't that make a bit more sense?
The 2 things that help people make decisions in a business, if you want to delegate a supervisor to start, or a leading hand to start running jobs or doing those kinds of things, they need to have clear values to guide their behavior and decision-making, and a directional priorities about what's most important, like some goals or something to focus on, a North Star, like where are we headed? Oh, we want to get X project done by this date. This is the timeline. This is the goal. If they know that and our values, they have 99% of the tools they need to make every decision in your business. And if they know that here's the goal and we value quality over speed, they're going to make a call to do that job right as opposed to cutting a corner. And if they know that they value honesty and transparency over something else, then they're going to be open and transparent with the client rather than hide things or try to get away with doing something that they might get away, or try and hide something from the certifier. But having a direction, like a goal and a set of values, is 90% of what your team needs to make the right decision.
Yeah. We always talk about it. They can Google the how, can't Google the why. So give them that. The how is easy, man. And they can ask for the how. They can go, hey, I need to make a decision here. I just need a little tweak of this. How do I do this? Great. You don't mind answering those questions. They're the easy ones.
Say, like, okay, what are we doing and who are we going to be while we're going there? That's the values. So who do you want them to be while they're representing you, and where are we headed? If they know who they've got to be, where they're headed, mate, they might have a few how questions, and that's technical knowledge, and you guys are the experts and you just teach. Piece of cake. They can Google that, YouTube it. There's 100 ways like they can find out how. So the how's the easiest bit, but we spend all our time on the how and forget about what and who. It's what and who that will help you grow your business with a team of leaders that will help. Your goal is to build the people that are going to build the business, not do the work. You know, you want to build a set of chippies, a set of plumbers, a set of electricians, a set of whatever that are going to build your business with you.
Beautiful. Is there any other questions about how, again, this is about you going, what can I do right now? And maybe if you were to give 3 things that they could literally take away and go, can implement this tomorrow, start doing this tomorrow, what would it be?
Identifying what your values are. Work out, so what are our company values? Book a session with your team to go through them and discuss them. Talk about what they mean in terms of what would this look like if someone was being honest? How would we be able to tell? What behavior would we see if they were being honest, or whatever your value is, right? Then implement it in your morning meeting, your weekly pre-start, or whatever you do, whatever the rhythm is already in your business. Pick one every week and talk about it. If you just did those 3 things over the next 30 to 60 to 90 days, your team will really shift and start to come on board, and it will become the momentum and powerhouse that it has for all my clients that implement this and get it right. In the first 90 days when I work with a client, we spend 90 days on the clarity compass, which is that as a leader, where do I need to be focusing my time, and what's our compelling vision? Like, where are we actually headed as a business, so that we can give our business context for our team? Because if they don't, our team doesn't have to love our vision. Their vision just has to fit inside ours.
That's a great segue into Jamie's question. How much do we bring while we're small numbers, should we get our team to refine the values? As in, what I'm hearing here, Jamie, is how much are we going to get that team to be refining and putting input to these? And what you just said then about, they don't have to be theirs, but theirs have to fit within it.
Yeah.
Talk me through that process.
100%. I encourage everybody to get their whole team involved in the values exercise. Even if you have a good idea of what your values are, start to discuss values and get the whole team in. It's such a really powerful piece. Getting them in and getting their input, all of a sudden it's your values and our values, and not your values, Jamie. It's the team's values. That they will be really close to yours, I'd almost guarantee, if they're not exactly yours. But what happens is they are really empowered and inspired to be a part of this thing, right? And you can talk about it, and I encourage my clients to talk about the values as a part of where you're headed. Hey, this is who we're going to be on the next part of our journey. And then they feel really inspired to be a part of shaping the future of the business, not just coming to work to build a deck or to fix some toilets or to do whatever their job is.
How does it look in decision making? And what would it look if we were going to make a decision that was going to actually cost us money in the short term, but we would make it in a heartbeat? What would that look like with this value? Because that's when it starts to test it, right? When are you going to throw away $100, $1,000, $10,000 for that value today to have that value be who you are in 10 years? And it ends up, we changed our values, even just the wording, Andrew, as well, sometimes, because the wording started off a bit vague. We had the word, for example, family, which, what does that even mean? So it was, and then we put some instances of how that played out when we would make calls that were to do with family. And we ended up with, together we are family, because it was around how we interacted with each other and how we treated as we were there, not family as in global. It was just too many decisions that went against the other values when we started to bring in just pure family. So that was for us, but it came because we challenged it and said, when would this not be the case?
And to answer your question, Andrew, I would encourage you to be relatively clear on your own values before you go and incorporate the team. Because if you don't know your values, what I've seen happen is the company values end up being whoever has the most influence in the group. And 6 months down the track, you might realize that some of those values aren't yours and you don't really like them and you don't resonate. And it sort of doesn't have a huge disastrous impact, but you end up doing it again anyway. So I would encourage you to get really clear on your own values first before you went and incorporated the team and got them to be a part of the process.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to have a conversation and talk about values, James can share like a 15-minute call. We can jump on and we can chat and we can have a conversation.
This is such gold as far as I'm concerned. I know that the clients I have that have got this nailed have the best relationships with their talent, both on-site and their VAs, out of everybody, because it's effortless, it requires far less micromanagement, and it's just more effective and fun.
The teams that have this nailed, the businesses that have this nailed, have got the highest productivity team and the most profitable businesses in my programs.
Thank you so much, Mick, and I really hope that those of you have taken away some gold and get some of this implemented. Book in anything you need to with Mick, and you can always talk to us and the team about how to connect. And yeah, thanks again, Mick, and hopefully we'll see you on another one.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Anytime. Cheers, eh? Thank you all for your engagement. Appreciate you all.
Awesome. Beautiful. See you later, guys. Bye.